Hi, everybody. I'm Frank Stanisci of Candid Frank Live, where you'll find us airing our views here on the Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV, channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate and leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and also on all smart TVs 2016. Forward now on Candid Frank Live. Joining me is Aaron William Freeland. Everything's three words around here. Hey, Aaron, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Frank. How are you?
Good. I can't complain. I have to tell you, I got this new computer going, so I'm pretty happy with that. That there is a new computer, so that I can do stuff with a little more alacrity. So it's been a challenge previously, and now hopefully not so challenging. All right, so let's talk here. 1 week left until we pretend we actually like our families. I like that statement.
Yeah,
Well, you go through the trouble of staying with, I just stay away from them. You can pick your friends, you can't pick your family. Oh,
this is
I'm
very true.
sorry. I'm sorry. Is this me being politically incorrect? Mentioning that sometimes we don't always get along with our families? Is that something new that shouldn't be discussed? Ugh.
Look at it this way, Frank. You may love your family, but that doesn't necessarily mean you like them.
Yeah, it's like what I learned in Catholic school. Don't hate the sinner, just hate the sin.
That works too.
Same difference.
Yep.
All right, let's go to sports and let's talk about the Warriors. And Stephen Curry snaps his 268 game streak, doesn't make a three-pointer in win over the Trailblazers. And this is after ESPN did a special on how good he is at hitting three-pointers.
Yeah, he had a string of almost 3 seasons where he managed to get a 3-pointer in almost every single game. Well, in every single game. He was 0 for 8 from behind the arc in their win over Portland on Saturday night. So I guess it's sort of immaterial that he wasn't scoring threes because they still topped him 118 to 114. So this is his first regular season game without a made 3-pointer since 2018. So it
Wow.
goes back a long way. Yeah, it's quite an accomplishment when you think about it. The
That's
absolute consistency of it.
that's very storied. It's amazing. It truly is amazing. But you know what? It shouldn't be a surprise. He is that kind of player. And he learned a lot of his basketball here in Toronto because his dad played for the Raptors. And
That's
I
right. His father Dell was one of the mainstays.
one of the originals. And Steph used to warm up, play, whatever on the court while his dad was there. He had a great opportunity to really be, literally through osmosis, learn the game of basketball. With great players. I'm sure that helped him, and he's a great guy too. He's not somebody that you know um, troubles follow, or his business dealings. Oh no, what's he doing there? He has been very successful in what he does, and he's been he's been fairly charitable with his time as well. So this is a good person as well as a great basketball player. The kind of person, I don't want to sound, now I'm getting into family things again, that parents would be proud of.
Oh, for sure. Uh,
Sorry.
it's interesting to note actually that the person in second place behind him is Damian Lillard, who only managed a streak of 101 games as compared to the 268 that Steph had. He's slacking.
Yeah, it is what it is, right? Let's talk about the National Hockey League. And what do you know? A fan favorite in Montreal finally scores a goal.
Yeah, after his 7-year, $5.5 million contract, everybody was wondering when he would finally manage to pull the trigger on something. Um, but Josh Anderson actually got 2 goals as the Habs held on for a 5-1 win over renowned Leaf killers, the New York Islanders, on Saturday night. Um, Cole Caulfield also had his first goal in 7 games, and Joel Armia and Christian Dvorak also scored, while Sean Monahan, Nick Suzuki, and Justin Barron picked up 2 assists each. Sam Montembeau is justifying the contract that they gave him with stopping 30 shots. And this is actually the Canadians' second win in their last 10 home games. So it's been a bit of a downturn for them.
Leaf fans are so happy their team's doing well, and the team they hate probably more than any other team, equally Boston. But Boston, they're playing well, and they're always pretty good. And of course, the Habs are, I don't know. and another team like the Habs that you expect more from. And these past few years, I'm starting to think, Aaron, I'm starting to think they need a coaching change. I say this for the same reason that I'm impressed by the Maple Leafs coach. Sample size matters.
No, for sure. And I think we've reached a point here where, I'm pretty sure you saw this, approximately 2 hours ago, DJ Smith was relieved of his coaching duties.
Oh no, I didn't see that. That's what.
Yeah. So
No,
Jack Martin is now the interim coach, and Daniel Alfredson has been brought in as an assistant bench boss. So gone and done is the DJ Smith
wow.
era in Ottawa. All hail Alfie and all hail Jack, who's been brought back for another stint behind the bench.
I really didn't say that knowing that had happened. But it is a feeling I have. Well, thank you for making me feel a little sheepish. But obviously now you can believe me when I say I'm not surprised that he got canned.
It was overdue, I think.
I can honestly say that right now. I'm not surprised. Let's talk about the Jets, and Velarde steers the Jets to a 6-2 win over the Avalanche. Velarde, one of three players and a draft choice that came to them in their big trade with their big star. And it seems these guys that they brought in and drafted are really making a contribution to the Jets.
In this particular case, it seems like the Jets really did actually luck out with the guys that they managed to bring in after getting rid of PLD. I mean, he obviously really didn't want to be there in the first place. So I am glad that the players that they have brought in have turned out well for them. I mean, Iafallo was waiting to end his 18-game goal scoring drought. Velarde got the other two. It was funny watching the games on Saturday. At one point, Winnipeg was actually up 3-0, and Montreal was winning, and Calgary was winning too. And then what's his face on the panel, BX, has said, "Well, I'm surprised none of the Canadian teams have had goals scored against them yet." It's just like, oh, Kevin, what have you done? What
He
have you
makes a valid
done?
point. He makes a valid point.
Yeah, no,
Kind
I
of a
mean he
cheap
does.
shot, but it's kind of a cheap shot, but it's a valid point. It is what it is. Let's talk about the Flames. Calgary, they end their 4-game winless streak with a 4-2 win over the Tampa Bay. Let's just say lightning isn't striking lately.
No, and the Flames seem to be catching fire.
Yes, there we go. Okay.
Two very bad puns. Yegor Sharangovich actually scored for his 5th consecutive game as the Calgary Flames actually managed to snap their 4-game losing streak with a 4-2 victory over the Tampa Bay Lightning. AJ Greer, Mackenzie Weegar, who was rumored to be coming to Toronto, and Connor Zary also scored for Calgary, and Jordan Esterly had 2 assists. Dan Vladar had 31 stops to get the win in net. Now, not to be outdone, Point and Stamkos scored for Tampa Bay, while Nikita Kucherov chipped in with a pair of assists as the Lightning finished 2-3-0 on their 5-game road trip. Vasilevsky did seem like he was almost rounding back into form, but this seemed to be a bit of a hiccup on the road for him. But I'm reasonably certain they're going to be back in the playoffs anyways because Stamkos isn't hurt yet.
Well, the Panthers went into Edmonton and they defeated the Oilers with the ex-Leafer Hagee having 2 goals and an assist.
Yeah, this was unfortunate to see. I was hoping that the Edmonton Oilers would manage to make it 9, but Carter Vick Hagee had 2 goals and an assist as they bounced back from 2 consecutive shutout losses. So this is a big win for them, especially getting the win 5-1. Sam Bennett had a goal and 2 assists. Brandon Montour and Alexander Barkov also scored for the Panthers. So, when you don't get a goal in a couple of games, it obviously kind of sucks. So it was, nice to see them putting the puck into the net. Unfortunately, it was against Edmonton, but that's the way these things go. One team has to win, one team has to lose.
Well, the Knuckleheads, led by Brock Besser, he scored his 23rd goal as the Vancouver Canucks beat the undermanned Chicago Blackhawks 4-3.
Yeah, it's been a tough season for the Blackhawks, to say the least. They've lost a lot of players to injuries, and it hasn't really been helping them. They had a relatively quiet first period, as it turns out. But Brock Besser, Ilya Mikheyev, he of the Campbell Soup contract, and Dakota Joshua scored in the middle period, and Elias Pettersson also scored. This is a quick bounce back for them. Sorry, after a 2-1 shootout loss at Minnesota on Saturday. JT Miller and Tyler Myers are also chipping in with assists, and Demko had 25 saves on the night. So everybody performed well for them.
Well, the Leafs were visited by the Pittsburgh Penguins and their former GM. And the Leafs have Austin Matthews on the shelf because he was ill. Ty Domi's son, I want to say, slides into his position, has a goal and 2 assists, and leads the Leafs to the demolishment of the Pittsburgh Penguins to the tune of 1 touchdown to nothing.
I was joking with the missus after they scored the second goal. I said, and the kick is good.
Yep, the convert worked.
Yep, he had Martin Jones actually got 38 shots for his first shutout of the season. Max had a goal and 2 assists. Mitch Marner, William Nylander, and Matthew Nyes each had a goal and an assist. And John Tavares, Noah Gregor, and Bobby McMahon also scored for the Maple Leafs. Bertuzzi had 3 assists. And this was to help Toronto extend its point streak to 9 games. They are 6-0-3 in their past 9 games. It was pretty impressive to see. Also of note, Matthew Nyes had a Gordie Howe hat trick. This is, I think, the first that the Leafs have had since 2015, if memory serves. So very exciting to see that.
Wait a minute, you forgot one really important deal. The gray-haired rookie had his first goal in the National Hockey League, and he's had a couple of false alarms to boot. Remember the goal they called back?
That is true. Noah Gregor finally broke the seal on his NHL goal scoring. Very happy to see that.
McMahon.
Bobby McMahon, sorry. Yeah, they called his first one back.
That's right. All right. Well, the Leafs, we like talking about the Leafs Friday. We'll do Leaf talk again, and we'll be talking about the Maple Leafs. We'll get into more detail as far as the games are being played. One thing I can say about this game against the Pittsburgh Penguins, the Leafs looked very intent. I haven't seen them this. I don't want to use the word perfect, Aaron, but this, in tune with each other. Like the passes, they made it look easy. Some of those passes and some of those goals, everything was working right for them, which is the opposite of what we saw at the beginning of the year. Remember, they couldn't make 2 passes back to back. This one here, they're making 3 and 4.
Well, there was just an excellent amount of patience that was displayed on some of the goals, waiting for just the last second to slide the puck through. So
absolutely. All right, let's go. Sorry, Aaron.
No worries.
Okay, let's go to shenanigans, and that's something. Let's talk about Canada, and a researcher cracks 135-year-old unsolvable code. What code is this, Aaron?
It's nothing like what you're thinking. It was actually kind of neat. There were 2 scraps of paper that were tucked inside a hidden pocket of an antique silk dress. And they were basically what looked like garbage words. Helena, onus, lofo, us, nail each read one line of 24 difference. Another one said Calgary, Cuba, Ungard, Confute, Duck, Fagan, Egypt. And people were trying to figure out what it was. Sarah Rivers Cofield is the American archaeologist and curator in Maryland who bought the dress in question back in 2013. She had found a hidden pocket inside the dress, which contained about 24 different lines of seemingly nonsensical words. People went to work on breaking it for fun, and it turns out, back in the late 1800s, when people would send telegraphs, they would use coded words to describe the weather. And this uncrackable code actually had to do with weather conditions.
Okay.
So, fun little tidbit.
Let's talk about the RCMP and how they warn about a spike in online extremism among Canadian youth.
So, in case anybody hasn't noticed, there has been a rise in violent extremism among Canadian youth, and Jewish leaders are urging community members to be diligent after 2 teenagers were arrested on terror-related charges in the past 5 days. There have now been 5 Canadian youth arrested on terror-related charges since the month of June, which includes an Ottawa teen who was arrested Friday and charged in connection to a plot against the city's Jewish community. There was a 16-year-old who was arrested in Calgary on December 13th. who's the third teenager and fourth person arrested in relation to a case that involved the use of social media, such as TikTok, and threats against the Jewish and LGBTQ plus community. Um, Far too often these days, it's way too easy to get radicalized because you fall down rabbit holes. I'm pretty sure you've done this yourself. You go to look up a certain subject on YouTube, and it starts feeding you videos, and you eventually get to the point where you're basically just watching somebody scream about a Nazi caliphate taking over the banking of the world, and it's the rabbit holes can be scary and deep.
I don't miss the fact that here in Canada you can't see the news on Facebook.
Yeah, I'm not entirely upset by that either, to be honest with you.
I thought it
It's
would have been more upset.
eh,
When it first happened, I'm going, yeah, but then, I just thought about it. I said to myself, hang on a second now. If I want to check out the news, I can still see the same things. It's not like the Canadian government has said, nope, you guys can't share information. They're just saying that Facebook maybe isn't the place for it to happen, and I think that's true, more or less. This is the way it's coming to me, Aaron, and I'll ask your opinion on it. What's happening is it's like not having a conversation about politics at the dinner table at Thanksgiving. I
it's
That's what I think of it.
yeah, I'll be honest with you. I'm kind of relieved that I'm not seeing nearly as much garbage floating across my feed with relation to that sort of thing. It's become a lot more manageable and a lot more low key, and I certainly appreciate that because I don't need to be stressing myself out with arguments every day,
The
especially not
socio
with strangers.
the socio-political, um, manner in which Facebook existed. I mean, X, formerly known as Twitter, is still like that. But I find that this makes Facebook more of a social area as opposed to a socio-political area. And I find that we see more time with people, what they're doing and who they're hanging out with and what's going on and what can I do this, today or tomorrow, whatever. So I think it's going to be delineated. Facebook and X are going to be delineated by the fact that Facebook is more of a social place. Twitter is where you go if you want to talk politics or find out about political stuff. And that's okay, Aaron. Not everything has to be everywhere.
No, this is certainly true. You don't need a Thanksgiving dinner every single day, every time you open a certain website. It just doesn't need to happen.
Right. So anyway, I'm glad we agree on that. And I think it's really nice to just get away from it. I find the stresses of having your opinion pulled from you, because essentially that's the way it is. I know in Twitter, if you go there, that's what it feels like. It feels like people are pulling your opinion and they're demanding you to give them your opinion. And they're demanding also that once you give them your opinion, you better have the right opinion. And that's not one specific group or one specific slant. It's everything about it. So I'm glad to get away from it. I'm not a big Twitter fan. I got to be honest with you. I'm not a big Twitter fan. And that's the reason. It's too the BS floats around there too simply, too easily, and it's actually, as we learned, Aaron, it's been promoted by the people like Twitter because it helps them to get clicks and it helps them to advertise. So I don't need to enhance stupidity to help someone else make money.
No, we certainly don't need to do that.
So, and it doesn't mean there isn't truths told on Twitter, but it's a Rubik's cube, it seems sometimes. Okay, let's go over to New Brunswick, and this one here concerns me. New Brunswick, they were number one when the COVID was around, but now it seems they're not keeping the same kind of standard, apparently. But apparently, there's explanations if you want to share them with us, Aaron.
Yeah, well, the explanations are there, but they're few and far between. About a year after New Brunswick was set a Canadian record for COVID-19 fatalities, there were 657 deaths from COVID in 2022. They actually calculated the mortality rate to be about 80.9 COVID deaths per 100,000 residents, which is the highest recorded by any Canadian province or territory since vaccines became available in 2021. It's also uh, worse than the death rate of 47 of 50 United States in 2022. I'm not sure how they ended up there, but it almost feels as if the provincial government has kind of washed their hands of it. Now,
Oh,
the Department of Health has offered various potential explanations. Um, one is the severity of the Omicron variant in early 2022. Um, but the 2022 deaths were 60% above national average, and more than 70% ahead of what Nova Scotia's and of Nova Scotia and PEI. Um, Blaine Higgs um, saw his approval rating at first soar at the start of the pandemic, and he won a majority government because of that. But in August of 2021, when New Brunswick began to be reopen, um, Higgs just sort of, we're going to stop collecting data. As far as we're concerned, it's over now, so we don't have to worry about it anymore.
it's there's some truth to that, and it simplifies things. I mean, we all know what we can do to avoid getting COVID. We all know what we can do. We understand what it takes, and then there's the question of what we're willing to do. And I think we've drawn a conclusion as a overwhelming group that until people are in a position where we need to have mass vaccination, there's no need to harp on it with people who don't want to do it. I don't agree with it, but you know what? There's a lot of things I don't agree with that I realize that I might be wrong, and or I don't have the right to dictate. So um, let's hope that the hope is that we mitigate any kind of deaths. So let's talk about Prince Edward Island, and on a different sort of thing about us and humanity. Well, we have to deal with weather, and they're dealing with heavy winds in Prince Edward Island.
And now it was rumored that it would have been possible for the bridge to be closed and for ferries to be cut off this morning. But the good news is, because there were no sustained winds of over 105 kilometers per hour, the bridge didn't need to be closed, and ferries were still permitted to operate. As far as we can see here, the upper level was about 80 to 85 kilometers an hour on Sunday night and into Monday morning. So the decision was made to keep the bridge open.
Newfoundland and Labrador have some oil. Newfoundland and Labrador have some resources that help to make them pretty flush. Unfortunately, for the rest of the country, they're still a have not province.
Yeah, at one point, and this is back in 2008, uh, they actually got off the have not list, and it was a very proud day for Premier Danny Williams and the rest of Newfoundland. But unfortunately, they've gotten to the point where uh, projects have underperformed. Things haven't quite gone their way. Muskrat Falls is still behind, so they're not nearly as energy sufficient, independent as they could be. Um, but it's one of those situations where not enough money was put in by the provincial governments to make sure that they stayed out of the need side of it.
Absolutely. Quebec ER is out of control as patient influx overwhelms hospitals. Oh my goodness, says the doctors.
Yeah, the Regroupement des Chefs d'Urgence du Québec, or RCUQ, which represents the province's emergency rooms, says the situation currently is out of control. While all the ministerial attention has been focused on Bill 15, which is Quebec's new healthcare reform legislation, and a reorganization of the healthcare system. Unfortunately, things have completely frozen for Quebec ERs, and they haven't been able to do the work that they need to do. They haven't been able to receive the funding that they need to receive. Um, and as it currently stands, as an example, in the Laurentians region of Quebec, the Mont Laurier Hospital occupancy rate is at 220%, while the Barrie Memorial Hospital and the Montérégie region is at 200%. So
Wow.
there's way more people coming in than they have nurses to deal.
Real quick, the coldest day in December is about to be upon us. And after having the kind of weather we've had this December,
Yeah, it's very quickly it's closing in. Now, again, weather forecasting is an inaccurate art at best, or science at best. But we are likely to see a below freezing high tomorrow. Cold air is going to kick off a round of lake effect snow. So that means that by the time I get downtown tomorrow for the Leafs game, we could potentially be seeing much colder temperatures than we're currently seeing today. It is actually forecast to be a high of -2 in Toronto, -4 in Barrie, -5 in Orangeville. So it'll be the coldest day of the year to date. If you don't have your winter tires on yet, why don't you? Best to keep that in mind.
November 17th, the Grey Cup will be happening, and every game before has now been broadcast by the Toronto Argonauts and the rest of the teams. The schedule's out there, folks. Many were asking about it. Here it is. And all I can say is the Grey Cup's on November 17th. That's, again, around the same time they had it last year, which means that, we're still waiting for an opportunity. That again this year, week 1 has BC and Toronto. I would have preferred to have seen Montreal and Toronto, but I don't understand how the schedules haven't figured that out yet. That revenge games sell.
Revenge games hugely sell, but we are going to be opening on June 9th against the BC Lions, followed by the Elks on the 22nd, the Alouettes on the 28th, and then they go on a bit of a road trip until Saturday, July 27th, when the Blue Bombers are in town. Then August 9th, when Calgary is here, the 22nd, when Saskatchewan is here, and then Hamilton will be here Friday, September 20th, and Montreal Saturday, September 28th. And finally, Saturday, October 19th, Ottawa will be in town. So there you have it. The full schedule is there. If you don't have your season tickets already, why don't you pick them up? They're a good night on the town.
They absolutely are. He's Aaron William Freeland. I'm Candid Frank Stanisci. Thank you for watching Candid Frank Live here on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. This show can also be heard on the Spanglish World Network, as heard on the Spanglish World Radio Network. For Candid Frank Live, other news, entertainment, and sports programming we offer, please check out SpanglishWorld.ca. Spanglish World, watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Don't forget Candid Frank Stanisci 1030 on YouTube. Ciao for now.